What's up? So this is definitely going to be the longest, most drawn out video I've made so far. If you want something shorter, more fast paced, click the link in the description box or check out any of my other videos. But this is for anybody who ever thought of buying a secondhand sports car, maybe a used Mercedes, European car. About 4 years ago I got this used SL500 and it was my daily driver for the first 3 of those years. I'm going to go over in detail all the problems I've had with this car, what that entailed, and the money I spent. So I got this car 4 years ago. It's a 2006, originally sold for around $100,000. I only paid $20,000 for it, which right off the bat is an incredible deal. Only $20,000 for a car that was once $100,000. Still looks and feels brand new, convertible hardtop, everything worked, heated, cooled, and massage seats, an incredible amount of utility and storage for a car of its size, and everything worked. Had it inspected, no serious problems, went ahead and bought it. A week later I took it to the authorized Mercedes Center for service. They came back to me with a list of about $10,000 worth of optional repairs that I could do, most of which I haven't done to this day, and have never presented a serious problem. The only thing on their list that actually did require immediate attention, the motor mounts. Somehow the mechanic who inspected it missed this, but the motor mounts were bad and needed to be replaced. I knew this myself because every time I accelerated really hard, the car would shake. So I went to an authorized independent mechanic and got them replaced. This was $1,000, which at the time, I was completely fine with. Because I got a crazy deal on, like I said, a car that was once $100,000, now for only $20,000, and on top of that, most of the cars like mine were going for $23,000 to $25,000. So I've already saved a lot. I was thinking, it's all good. And it was all good for the next 6 months. I put about 10,000 miles on the car going from LA to Palm Springs, LA to Vegas, San Diego, taking various road trips, just aimlessly driving around and enjoying it, until I was driving one day and the car just decided to randomly get stuck in second gear. I took it to a new place closer to my house, authorized European car repair shop, very popular, very busy, great reputation in the area. They told me I probably needed to have the valve body rebuilt. Probably. They said probably. But they said the problem didn't seem serious and could probably be fixed by replacing the batteries. That's right, batteries. This car has 2 of them. They told me the batteries were incredibly low, and when the batteries are that drained, it can affect other systems like especially the transmission. This was also something that my last mechanic told me, and even at the Mercedes dealership. So I knew it wasn't something he was just, pulling out of his ass. So I replaced the batteries along with a nice little transmission reset. Didn't fix the problem, so I had the valve body rebuilt. So within the first year of having the car, over 10,000 miles driven, over $2,500 in repairs. Definitely less than ideal, but not a catastrophe. After the transmission fix, everything worked great until I saw what would become a really close friend of mine, the ABC light. Did I mention this car has air suspension? You can raise and lower the car if need be, which definitely must have been cool for the original owner, but absolutely terrible when it goes out. A number of things can happen. Suspension on one of the wheels can go stiff, the car can lower almost all the way to the ground, tilt to one side, or in this case just have super loose suspension where your body's just bouncing around on every single bump. Kinda similar to a 90s Chevy Caprice, except like twice as bad. I had the ABC fluid replaced along with the cleaning, flushing, and reset of the system. About 3 months later I received another message from my good friend, the ABC light. This time the body control was completely f***ed. I took it in and had to replace the damper valve. Yeah, damper valve. This was around $1,000. If you're wondering, during this whole ABC fiasco, I did take it to the official dealership-based Mercedes Service Center. However, they told me the only thing they could do was replace the entire system, which would run me between $5,000 and $7,000. Wasn't gonna do that. So after fixing that, I was a bit frustrated, but it was still very much worth it. For the price and all the repairs I spent on the car, I was still getting a pretty amazing car for the money. For the same price that you would pay for, let's say, a new Honda Civic. I was definitely very much enjoying it. When it worked. And it did. Till one day when I was out for a nice little Sunday cruise. I had a bit of a high hangover, so my brain wasn't really functioning that fast. I pressed on the brake pedal, as you do when you're approaching a red light, and didn't work. I was very confused for a second until a big red warning came on the screen saying reduced brake effect don't drive. A little late for that. Luckily I wasn't going that fast, so I was able to bail into a gas station and stop the car. A tow truck was then involved, and I went back to the mechanic, which up until this point had been really good at diagnosing problems. He had the car for a few days and told me it was most likely the relay switch. Didn't get a second opinion on this one, because obviously I didn't want to keep doing tow truck time, taking it from shop to shop. I took this opportunity to save on the labor cost by getting a bunch of stuff fixed that I was just ignoring. There was a slow radiator leak and I had to put water in it every 2 weeks. Got that fixed. I also decided to fix the convertible top because it decided to go ahead and get stuck every once in a while. I was also at this point receiving more messages from my good friend, the ABC light. However, most of the time the suspension worked, and even on occasion when it didn't, it wasn't super noticeable. So I decided to go ahead and leave it. At this point I was obviously very tired of making repairs. About a week later, I'm driving down my street and the brakes go out again. I didn't really get too upset about it. I calmly called the tow truck again. This time I took it back to the authorized Mercedes service center. After a 3-day inspection, they told me it could be a number of things, but they said they could definitely go ahead and start by replacing the entire braking system. This would be a few $1,000s. And they didn't even guarantee that it would fix the problem. F that. Definitely not something I was going to do, especially when they said they didn't particularly see a specific problem with the braking system and that wasn't guaranteed to fix the problem. I did some research, called around. Most places, just like me, had no idea what to do, so I took it back to the mechanic. This time he had it for over a week. At this point I also considered selling it, but I mean, you can't really sell a car with no brakes. And I also wasn't going to try to sell it and pretend that the brakes didn't like to randomly go out. Yeah, that's not cool. In case you're wondering, I did contemplate selling it a few times, but there were a few unnecessary fixes I didn't really feel like making that really diminished the value of the car. For instance, the convertible top definitely worked, but it needed a few repairs before it could achieve flawless perfection. Also, even though the ABC system worked every time I made a repair to it, the system did still warn me every once in a while that it wasn't perfect. And obviously I didn't feel like shelling out $5 to $7 grand replacing the entire system. There was also a bunch of weird random electrical problems at the time. Every time I get the brake message on the screen, the radio would malfunction, features like the heated and cooled seats wouldn't work, the top was inoperable. So after literally almost 2 weeks of inspection, he finally figured out it was one of the 3 SAM systems, which was a $250 fix. For $250. That's actually a pretty important thing to be aware of. Mercedes wanted to charge me a couple $1,000s for a fix that was unnecessary and wouldn't have worked, and I got it and a bunch of other problems with the car fixed, and a smaller mechanic for only $250. And about $700 worth of accidental fixes that I actually did have to make at one point or another. Followed up by a nice little transmission mount replacement. That was only $145. Selling a car like this type of car, in this price range, can be an extreme hassle, especially when it has over 100,000 miles and still a few lingering problems. So I took it to CarMax, mostly out of curiosity, just on the off chance they would offer me like $10,000 and I could just easily sell it right then, no hassle. They offered me $5. That. The car was completely paid off by this point, so I decided to just keep it and look for another car. A new car, like not used. The last 2 repairs I made on it, it randomly decided to just not start one day, so I had to replace the starter motor and the alternator assembly. There was also a nasty pressure buildup with the radiator. I forgot exactly what that was. I lost the paperwork, but it was about $700. There was also about another $1,000 to $1,500 in repairs that I'd probably forgotten about, lost the paperwork for. I remember they occurred, but can't remember specifically what they were. I spent $20,000 on it and a little over $10,000 in repairs. At this point I decided to lease a brand new car, rent that out to people from time to time, and use the SL as a backup car. I'll be making a specific video about that soon, so be sure to hit the subscribe button. So even though these set of repairs over a 4-year time period can be extremely irritating, if you're an enthusiast on that particular model, or like me, you just really like the car, you might be able to justify spending a little over $30,000 for that type of car. It's definitely a lot of fun, has a really unique set of features, super comfortable, drives and handles amazing. But here's something you can't justify. My friend who's a car dealer really liked my car, came across one from the same year, decided to keep it, and spent over 15 grand in a 3-month time period on repairs. Mostly related to the ABC and the convertible hardtop, so watch out. No matter if you get a used car, buy a new car, lease a new car, each one of those options have pros and cons you have to weigh. Spending $20,000 for a car that was originally $100,000, right off the bat's an incredible deal, but you're kind of rolling the dice because you can run into tons of problems, or everything can work perfectly. I'll be making more videos about this in the future. Like I said, this is definitely my longest and most drawn out video. Most of my videos are and will be very fast paced. Definitely going to be doing more car related videos in the future. Give this video a thumbs up. Where's my wine? There it is. Also be sure to check out my other videos that I make. I make other types of videos where you could learn stuff, or you could also like be entertained and see something entertaining. That's cool if you watch videos.
Did some research and called around and took it back to the original mechanic cause I didn't feel like doing tow truck time anymore. After a week, I called him. He said he was still working on it. Also in the few days it was drivable. There were a few electrical problems. He figured out how to fix those and said it should also fix the brakes. So obviously at this point,